Hello, hello.
Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to our next edition of Wisdom Meets Innovations. We got a pretty cool topic this morning. And is it okay, the sound?
Mhm.
Because I'm
I don't
directly from
know,
the
sounds
computer.
good to me.
Okay, cool. Cool, cool. So today we're going to talk about AI, ethics, equity,
Equity?
and excellence in using artificial intelligence. So how are you, Larissa?
Let's not even go there. I am tired, but I am here. I'm excited about this topic, I have to say. This
Yeah,
is I am a huge fan of AI, but I think this is such an important thing for us to talk about. And so, yeah, I'm here to jump in and, go all in on this.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's
All
go.
right.
Where do you want to start?
I want to start with the human part of it. And, because we have a list of concerns and we have a list of things that, the world is concerned about. But I think one of the things that's missing is this concern about how it's going to take over the things that make us human, right? Because AI is a computer, but it's learning to mimic emotions. It's learning to um, pretend to be human. But our humanness is what's going to separate us from AI in the future. And we have been taught to become almost robotic with the way we move through the world. We don't think for ourselves. We don't tune into our emotions or our intuition, anything in our body. And so we've given that up already. And as AI is growing, I think it's going to, no, I know it's going to get worse. And so I want to talk about, how we can be more human ourselves so that AI cannot replace us in the world. It's that humanness part.
I
Thoughts
gotcha.
on that?
So yeah, so you just said a couple of things like you said we're taught to not use our intuition and we're taught to just kind of float through society. And I I think that we're moving more this is sidebar, like, I think we're moving more towards doing a lot more of that. Now, when it comes to AI, I feel like I will lean on AI and it takes the humanness out of it, unless I'm very conscientious about the things that I'm doing. But
Mhm.
on the other side, I think that maybe it's because of the circle of people that I surround myself with, and I live in this little, I don't wanna say the word I was about to say because it's a different connotation to it, but I live in this little secure world of mine, comfortable world of mine where I deal with spiritual people on a regular basis, right? So,
Mhm.
I know that we're having these human experiences all of the time. We talk about it, but I don't go outside in the world that often.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for us to become insular in all of this and not look at the bigger picture, right? If you think about from from birth, especially women, I mean, it is changing. I notice it with my grandkids, but we're taught to behave a certain way and that other people know better and doctors know better, or teachers or parents or everybody. We're not taught to tune into ourselves. I do see, my daughter working with the kids on emotions more, like understanding their emotions, but still not about trusting their own selves, not about really tuning into what's going on for them and what's best for them. Because we have so many rules about how we're supposed to interact in the world, how we're
Yeah.
supposed to show up. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I would say there is definitely a bias that, because we surround ourselves with like-minded people, we have these conversations, but there's a lot of world out there that's not having these conversations. And so
Yeah.
that's a part of it.
I get
Um,
you now. Let's talk about the AI side of this because you and I both use AI a lot to create content for our businesses. And when I say content, I mean design workshops, create written content, email content, all of that. And I think that I just had a conversation with my VA team. And when I read the content, they're new, so they don't know me that well yet. When I read the
Mm.
content that they provided, I was like, no, no, no. Number one, take harness out of it. Do never, ever, ever use that word in anything that you write for me. Avoid deep dive. There's certain things, but the point is we have to remember to humanize the content that we're using and use it with our voice. And I'm kind of guilty of wanting to take the content and use it like it is because after many hallucinations with it or iterations with it, I feel like I have tweaked it to my voice.
Mhm.
So there's the ethical way of doing that, right? Like, so what I'm really trying to say is if you go into ChatGPT and you pull content down because you've written a really cool prompt and that information comes back to you and it does not sound like your voice, iterate with it as many times as you need to so that it does sound like your voice. And
Yes, yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
And then with the newer version of 4.5, it says that it's even getting even better. I just got it yesterday, so
Mhm. Yes, and I've played with it a little bit. The I've been saying that right since the get-go, right? Like,
yeah,
don't just take something right from ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using, there's so many out there now. Don't take it directly from that. Now, it is learning my voice, it is learning how I speak more and more, but there's still aspects of that that are not not you, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
one of the things you touched on was the certain words, right? And for me, it's those masculine energy words.
exactly. I've even
And
gotten to the point sorry, I've even gotten to the point of saying, "Do not make this masculine, make it feminine."
but then it goes to the other side where it's all flowery and, because I've done the same thing. It's learning now because I keep
Yeah,
correcting it.
yeah, mine doesn't get super feminine.
Yeah.
Probably because sorry, I keep doing this, but
Mhm.
I might probably because I say feminine and soulful and more human-like and sound like me. You've got
Mm.
many
Yeah.
repetitions of what I've said before, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. The humanness of it, right, though, is that how we show up in ourselves. If we don't know ourselves, how are we gonna know what's happening with AI and us? Because there's so many things that are happening. I think about skill regression, right? And so as AI does more and more things for us, are we able to do those things for ourselves? I've started using my prompts differently because I realized that I wasn't writing as much. And so I now do more outlines because before I was taking, maybe something I'd said in a class or on one of our shows and then asking it to write a blog post and I would, tweak some words and do that. And now it's like, no, pull out the main information from this talk or, whatever it is. And I still write it because I was losing that skill. And I'm a good writer, right? It's something I enjoy, but I had passed it off because it was easier, it was faster. And so coming back to it, I'm building it back up again, right? And
That's
so I'm
really good.
using it in different ways, but something that we need to think about, the more things we pass over to AI, the less we're able to do those things. And we need to think about that. There's some things we absolutely don't need to do, right?
Yeah, yeah. Some
But
of us
there are
are
some
not
things.
gifted in that way. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Sorry, because I want to write a note about that so I can keep up with what we're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Because that was such a good point. Sorry, y'all.
No, that's okay. Um, so yes, the idea of, are we going to be able to do the things that we need to do in the future? Because AI is growing exponentially in knowledge, in experiences, in learning, and we are not. Some ways, we had a discussion a couple
I
months
don't know
ago
about
about,
that part. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, we had a conversation about that a couple months ago about, were we getting smarter or
That's what I just wrote a note
lazier?
down about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think in some ways, I'm still in agreement. It can help us. I've learned new skills very quickly because of it, right?
Mhm.
Because it can pull that information that I need. But I'm also self-aware enough to know when it was taking away from me.
Yeah.
And that is a really important part.
Yeah, so we talked about, is AI making us lazy? That was our first program. So if you all want to see that, look in the channel. And it was our first conversation. We took a deep dive. Have you noticed how much we say deep dive since AI came out? Like that has become something that I hear everybody talking about. But if we took a deep dive on how we are potentially getting lazy from using it. And now that was like 2 or 3 months ago. Fast forward, life has changed so much, so quickly that I recognize exactly what you're saying in the fact that I've gotten lazy. Right? I
Yeah.
will whip in a prompt in a heartbeat, but I feel like writing the prompts is my way of bringing forth some of the equity that needs to be there because it's a Black woman's voice, and I'm putting it in there so it's starting to hear my perspective, and I might be trying to talk myself into something that's not real, but I feel like that's still an ethical use of the product, right? I'm calling it a product, but,
Yes.
um
And that I think is a really good point as well, right? The bias of AI. I
mhm,
mean, we saw that in the beginning with images. It was so noticeable with images and it's shifted, but there's still that very masculine energy to it, right? The wording that is used, the information that it was originally set up with. Now that it's open to the internet, there's a lot more. Plus, it can get to know us, right? I'm talking about ChatGPT specifically. And so it can get to know us. So that it has more information now, but that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But yes, there is definitely a bias in it, right? Because of the information that it's fed. And so what information are you giving it to get it to question things? One of the things I want to be challenged, right? Don't just tell me something. Or if I say this, now I'm saying, you know, is this what I should be doing? Well, give me reasons why maybe this isn't the best idea.
yeah, I do
I
too.
want to be challenged. And so I'm using it to challenge me instead of just like being my yes man.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's a good point right there, right? So when we're using this tool, whatever the tool may be for you, for us, I know you and I talk about this quite a bit, it's ChatGPT and Galaxy AI, Perplexity and Notebook LM for me. What's the other one? There's
Those
so
are the
many,
ones I
but
use.
Claude.
Mm.
And what are the
Yeah,
other ones
Gemini,
that you
Claude. Yeah.
Gemini. Yeah, so when we put the information in, I think it's really super important that we're personalizing it, and then that's bringing it up to the excellence of our standards, right? So if we talk about the fact that we're doing ethics, which is, making sure that we use it appropriately, especially you and I had this conversation all the time about the art world. And then
Mhm.
equality is about equity. I keep saying equity is on the biases. And then with excellence, it's that we need to program it to our voice so
Mhm.
that it hears us and it gets um, more in alignment with the feminine energy in the world.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
feminine energy.
Yeah. And I get a lot of it, from that now. In the
Hmm.
beginning, it was more flowery. Had some discussions with ChatGPT specifically about what is the divine feminine, what are those energies. It has a basic understanding of them, but we've gone a little bit deeper now, and so it's searched out other information and come back better or more aligned. I don't know, better, more aligned. And so, yeah. But again, I challenge it and I ask it to challenge me. And it isn't it. I call it I call it Barb.
Well,
Um,
it's my boyfriend.
yeah, I know I used to call it Bob, but I'm like, it's too smart. It's got to be a woman. It's too smart.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to flip this subject just for a second. We're talking a lot from the entrepreneur's perspective. Last week, I sat on a panel, and well, I led the panel on how we're using AI in the workplace and
Hmm.
in life overall. We've had a conversation about that. Our last when Wisdom Meets Innovation, we had the conversation about how we're using it personally. So you all can go back and check that out too. So look at our previous episodes. They're really amazing. But last week when I sat on that panel, we had an expert from the banking industry, and the conversation that we had on the ethics side and protecting ourselves from AI fraud situations was amazing. And when it all came down to it, the one thing that stuck out in my mind was what we need to do is make sure that when number one, do not share your personal information in any of the AI tools. And I had to wonder, I was like, I wonder if I have without thinking about it. I don't think so. Like, I wouldn't put my social security number in anything,
Hmm.
no address. But even when you upload your resumes, you have to be concerned about that phone number, and the rest email address is already on there. But the other thing that came up was, what if the data centers go down
Hmm.
and you have all of your content locked into ChatGPT and you can't get to it? What would that do to your business?
Well, you shouldn't, there's no one place you should ever have everything, right? Um, because for that very reason, how many people have built and lost their businesses on social media, right? Because they got locked out of their account or kicked out. And so ChatGPT is the same. Your computer, I use Google. No one place should have everything because of that very reason. We're relying on technology
We're
to.
relying on the cloud every day,
Mhm.
all day long.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
it just boggled me, and I back up my computer, but I don't keep a lot of stuff on my computer, right? I put it in
Mhm.
the cloud. So I really had to think about that because AI is making it so easy for us to just copy, paste, share it here. Google has got us on lockdown, basically. Nothing against Google. Google gods, don't mess with my stuff. But, I was like, "That's such a really important thing."
It
I'm using
is. It is.
Notebook LM all the time now, taking
Mhm.
content, putting it there, and I was like, "Okay, I gotta figure out another strategy for
Yeah.
retaining my content."
It needs to be in more than one place, and this is really important. I've found this trying to, um, extract myself from Meta, right? Facebook and
Mhm.
Instagram
Yeah,
since the election. I've been trying to extract myself. It's connected to everything. It affects everything. And so bit by bit, I'm taking my power back, but it's a long haul because we became so complacent, right? And
yeah,
so not putting it then into Google, as my main source, and not using it to sign into things and using passwords instead of, you know,
yeah.
I just want to back up a moment because Lauren asked a question here. ChatGPT and the access to the internet. And yes, Lauren, it has had access since ChatGPT 4, so it's been, quite a while now, which can be super helpful for I get it to do research, Perplexity as well, to do research. So, but if you are unaware that it has access to the internet, then, you know, there's a back and forth as well. AI doesn't just take, right? And so thinking about that, what are you putting out there in the world? Who else is using that information, right? Scammers have gotten so good. Like I have had to do some deep dive research where before it was so easy. You could tell from a spelling mistake, you could tell from, the email address. They have gotten so good now, that you have to do a little bit more, right? And so really looking at those things as well. That did you want me to go back to that one, Cheryl?
No,
Like,
actually, I'm looking at it in the comments now. I was
okay.
just saying we could leave it up there a little bit longer. Yeah, Lauren, that is a great question, but, even in the latest version, it is allowing us to get more content, more, new content, whereas ChatGPT 4 may have been back in June, and things have changed a lot since June.
Hmm.
So the more recent the versions are in ChatGPT, the more recent the content may be that's coming in. And then in some of the other tools that go out to the internet, they are a lot more up to date, a lot
Hmm.
more up to date. So
Yes.
welcome, welcome. I didn't pay attention. Hey, Sarah and Lauren, welcome to the conversation.
Yes. So like looking at those things, the the bias, the privacy concerns, the humanness, the um, you know, skill regression, all of those things that, personally, how is it also affecting us globally,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, we're not getting rid of AI. I've heard coaches still to this day saying it's a fad, it's going to go away. It is not going
It's
anywhere.
not going away.
So it's one of those things where you get on board or you get left behind, but also thinking about how you use it, right? We talked about job displacement is something that's often talked about. And yes, there's going to be job displacement, but there's also going to be jobs created if you
Right.
know how to use AI.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big part of it.
So in the jobs report that, I shared with you earlier, it is a jobs report from, I don't know where
That
it's
she
from. I'll
shared
tell
with
you.
me, not you.
Yeah, that was shared with you, sorry, with Larissa. It's the, what's it called? Work anyway, Future of Work, Work Report. They were saying that there was a net of about 14 million jobs that were gonna be lost. There were let me grab my notebook LM conversation real quick. They said that there were going to be, mm, sorry, this is where we
This
lose people. Sorry.
this well, I'm just going to jump in while you're looking for that. The the use of AI, this is a perfect example. There's this huge report and pulling out the data that you need, right? And so like putting in the report and then telling AI what you need from the report.
It's my
It's
favorite
time
tool, you
saving.
all. If you haven't started using Notebook LM to gather content and use it for research and um, analysis. You can create questions. I'm not going to do a whole teaching right now, but here's what one of the takeaways from that report said. And I think this is going to share with you all if I can get past the AI things on my computer. The projected creation is 69 million, and the projected job loss displacement is 83 million, which is a net decrease of 14 million jobs. Now, many of those jobs were kind of, Larissa and I were talking about, sort of kind of feminine, female oriented, like the bank tellers and the related clerks, material recording and stock keeping clerks, administrative assistants, executive assistants. And then things that are contributed to that decline is likely the automation, which AI agents now can do much of that work. And then the three roles that may do an uptick is the AI and machine learning specialist, big data specialist, and data analysts and scientists. And the growth is likely driven by increased importance of data analysis and artificial intelligence. And then the top
Mhm.
skills in A is AI and big data. Networks and cybersecurity and technology literacy. That makes me happy.
The
Technological.
understanding of,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things they've been saying right from the beginning is being able to write prompts, being able to know how the things are working will take you a long way, because being able to manipulate the product in a way that works, right? In the way that you need it to work is going to be really important. And so, yes, those are, Sarah, is that a scared emoji down there? I just, it's like,
That's
yes,
cute.
that's a scared emoji. Um,
So that's
yeah,
the whole thing, and I think that the fact that we're talking about wisdom meets innovation indicates that we're speaking to women primarily, right? That is our audience, that is our target audience. And that's one of the things, again, I just did a presentation last week on AI as the equalizer. It gives us an opportunity that we've never had before to level the playing field. We said that computers did it before, but it didn't because most people couldn't get a hold of people in the outskirts may not have been able to get a hold of a computer or the internet, which is connected to the computer. Now they have a telephone in their hands, so that does give them more possibilities. But learning AI and learning how to use it in a number of fashions definitely allows you to equal the playing field, as well as when you use it to assist you in productivity and efficiency for your own personal use. So you can go learn AI and become an expert. That's
mhm.
what we've done, right?
Yeah. Well, and I don't even know if I would consider myself an expert. Like, it's changing so quickly,
I
right?
would say you are an expert based on my research and the studies that I've done, because even though it's changing at a pace faster than we could have ever imagined, we are on the leading edge
Okay, I'll give
of
you that. I'll give you
understanding
that.
that, right? And
Yeah.
there's many people that have questions that we think, "Oh, you should know," we don't wanna share that because they already know that. Not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not.
And that is an important part. Looking at some of the other concerns around AI, right? We have our environmental concerns, right? And it's something we don't talk about often. And I know, Sarah, you and I have had this conversation, but the energy consumption, um, the carbon footprint, the resources that are being used, the um, water usage, those sort of things are really an important part.
Mhm.
And I do believe that AI is not going anywhere. So we need to do something about this. Now, that environmental concern, we see how well we've looked after the planet so far, very well. Some countries better than others. Some seem to be going in reverse. And, so where do we want to put our attention? I feel that my country is doing an okay job in working at it. Um, so I would like to put my attention, like, where are the platforms being hosted? What resources are they using? Are you learning those things about the platforms that you're using? Um, so that we know what those companies are doing, what those countries are doing, knowing that, certain countries are less concerned and removing barriers because money is more important than the environment. Do we want to be supporting the companies that are in those countries? So looking at those things, and you have to know where you are personally, but as somebody who's concerned about our planet, uh, I do think about these things. Is it going to stop me from using AI? No, but it does make me look at where those companies are, what they're doing to be a part of the answer, right? To be a part of the problem. Um, so Cheryl, you just asked Sarah,
I
why it was
did.
big
I
for you.
did.
I'm just going to put up her
Yeah.
answer.
And
I have
I'm
a hunch.
sorry that it's triples. I don't know why it's doing that on StreamYard, but so you're saying I have a hunch that the power needs of the AI engines will take much more than the resources of our planet can sustain. So this is just it's a whole deep, deep conversation, right? I
Mhm.
don't know enough about it, but what I'm seeing, with some of the war actions that are taking place, it can get deep on the mineral side of things. You know
And
what
if you look
I'm
at
talking about.
resources like water, right?
Mhm.
Um, that can be what it may bring is what I'm hoping is more innovation, right? How can we use the resources we have in a different way? And so looking at which companies, which platforms, which countries are doing those things is an important part of this. We can choose not to use AI. It's not going to stop it. We're going to be left behind by not using it, right? And there are some people who absolutely don't need it. When I think about artists, right? You don't need AI. Would it make your life easier? Probably. Will it make it more difficult in the future? Maybe not in this lifetime, but the next for sure. Depends on how old you are. So, there are things that don't need AI, but most entrepreneurs, I don't know one that's not using it. That's not true. I do.
Do you
But the
really?
majority are. And, corporations are less so because they have a lot of security issues that they're dealing with and whether or not to use it and how it's going to affect jobs before they actually jump in. So they're much lower percentage that are using it. But again, they're moving towards it because they're going to be left behind if they don't, right? And when you're talking about the cost of things, and we're seeing, all the different political issues that are causing costs to go up, AI can bring the cost down. Unfortunately, a lot of that will be in the humanness, right? And so what are we going to do differently as humans so that we can use AI to help our productivity without losing ourselves in it?
You
Sorry
see,
for
I
the
kind of shut down on you, right? Because I'm so embarrassed as an American. Absolutely embarrassed, and it hits me in the emotional side of life, so the human side,
Mhm.
because I want everybody that listens to this, and hopefully it will be all across the world, to know that most, like 75% of the Americans do not align with our current government. Flat out, plain and simple. 75%. But
Mhm.
you what you see on social media, well, actually, they're stepping up pretty good, but what you see on the news is not the way that we're thinking. So
Yeah,
with
I don't
that
hold you
being
personally accountable,
said
so
with that being said, it made me wonder how I could plug into some of the companies that are doing the good side of AI and the earth, and I have not done that. I'm gonna do some research on that.
mhm. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it to
Mhm.
see, you know, what choices we can make. And I think this is important in all areas of our life, right? What choices are we making that are furthering the direction we want the world to be going in? To
Mhm.
what choices are we making that are creating the world that we want? And being, unaware or not making conscious decisions just takes it in the way it's going, which we see in the media, the way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so being more conscious about the decisions we make is a really important part.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm always thinking about how to create something new, right? Like we could create our own YouTube is so powerful. We could create our own news station on how to, Sarah, you can help us, how to bring in the ethical side and save the planet approach. I'm sure there's some other people out there already, but um the planet approach of saving our world, humanity, and the ethical use of AI.
Hmm. Yeah. The ethical use of AI, but also the humanness that's required. Because as we further lose our humanness, AI
Let's talk
has
about that.
it it just has a chance to take everything over. And that's the fear that we have, right? From the movies that we've seen, you know, 10, 20 years ago. There was so many movies about, the computers taking over the world. And we're at that point now. We're at that pivotal point now where we have to make choices. We have to, bring that humanness. We have to bring our own, um, hopefully, ethics and morals into the work that we do with it. Right? There are people out there that are using it to scam people, that are using it to manipulate people, that are creating weapons. But there's more people using it for good. But so if we can just, not a but if we can just bring a little more consciousness to that, right? A little more felt experience to that, a little more humanness, we can shift things. AI is changing every moment, and we can shift it to the direction of the world we want to live in, where AI is there to help us, not hinder us.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we remember the human side of it and not get caught up and teach your children, your grandchildren to remember to interact with humans and not just their telephones, which is highly AI driven,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just with their computer screens, their gaming stations. Get them outside into nature, have human experiences so that they remember what humanity looks like before
Mm-hmm.
it's completely taken away. I personally believe that 60 years from now, our world will be totally taken over by non-human experiences in the way that we get to experience them now, right? Like I took a long walk this morning and saw the birds and the trees blossoming and all of that in a world that is our natural state. In the future, it may be manipulated by AI,
Well, think
right?
about the virtual reality.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
You can have so many experiences that way, but it's not the same. It can be, very cool and oh, that's awesome. But traveling to another country, experiencing other cultures, going out in nature, um, the lived experiences are going to be a big part of that, right?
It's funny you say that, Larissa, because, for me, I didn't think I was gonna be able to get on a plane due to, some physical stuff, and I was okay. I was like, "You know what? What I can do is I can go on YouTube and I can live those experiences through other people's eyes." I had traveled the world already, right?
Hmm.
But I was finding another way, and you just made it a reality experience for me that I was gonna depend on other people's lived experiences,
Hmm.
manipulated probably through AI to see the rest of the world. Interesting. So guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. What we all are in some capacity, right?
Yeah,
We
but we
No
don't
one
think
has it
about
all
it,
right.
right?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
have, and
it's
another
just
reason why, these conversations, getting together with people, being in community is
yeah,
such an important part
yeah.
because we get so lost in our only way, the one way, our perception of things. And so having these conversations allows us to look at things differently. And that's really important. Really
So
important.
many good points are being made here, that I really hadn't thought about from the ethical equity and excellence side, right? Because what I just said to you also kind of brings forth the excellence side, the ability to be able to do those kinds of things. Because there's people that may not be capable of having the ability to go out and do things, and that might be what Sarah's talking about. Um, and so we can use it from the excellence side to create a life that people may not be able to live. The ability to
Yeah,
travel.
for some
Yeah,
people who cannot, right?
yeah,
Who
yeah.
it is a
S
very positive thing to be able to use it.
Yeah, I love that, right? You can
Mhm,
leave those up for a little while so people can take a minute to read them.
mhm.
Um,
I'm a fast reader.
so that's the pros and cons of this. Like, there's all angles associated with the ethics, equity, and excellence of
Yes.
using AI. Sarah, is
Is
there
there
any questions you is that what you're
That's what
about
I
to
was
say?
just gonna say.
Is
Any
there anything
questions that anyone has or any comments about what we've talked about? We did a very, high level on a lot of it, really focusing on the humanity, the humanness. But is there any questions or thoughts from anyone? I'd love to hear it. That's
I'm
okay.
looking through our notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to.
Yeah, I was just, um,
I love cultivating a Zen approach to AI adoption
and
from a
funny.
mindfulness perspective. Sorry, go.
No, no, I interrupted you. Sorry. I've also been using it as, not as a therapist, but as a helping me to dig diver.
Oh,
No,
what you
dive,
deep
deep
dive.
dive, to go deeper internally, right? To go deeper internally to allow myself to explore my patterns, the things that get in my way. And so getting it to ask questions and then also, tweaking those. And then sometimes it'll spit back a really, wrote something I would get from my male doctor. And then it's like, okay, no, let's go a little deeper than that. Let's explore that a little further. Um, so using it,
Thank you
challenge
for
it,
showing
have it
that.
challenge you
Yeah.
for those things.
Lauren would just left us a message.
Uh,
So
Thank
while
you.
Larissa is using it, thank you, Lauren. I'm sorry. While Larissa is using it for those deep dives, just so that you all know, like she and I are business besties, and she'll oops, I didn't mean to say that. She'll shoot me that stuff, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I
No,
don't want to do a deep dive into that kind of thing right now. But what I did take away from it is, it has the potential to be my therapist. I could still go get a therapist and talk to him, but yeah, you can put that up, Larissa.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lauren, I'm with you as a neurodivergent entrepreneur also. Um, my doctor told me I had fibromyalgia, but I disagree. But I do have hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos, and so that causes a lot of pain and things. But executive function help, yes. AI
Yes.
is super helpful for the neurodivergents who have that executive functioning issues. Planning, also, I do a lot of outlines, things like that. Um, I take a lot of my written word or what I've spoken because I find it sometimes easier to speak and get it to formulate coherent thoughts from it. So all of those things. So yes, I absolutely agree, Lauren. So
Yeah.
any
Thank you
final
for
thoughts from
sharing
you,
that.
Cheryl?
I just no, there's not because I'm going to take a deep dive on neurodivergent. We'll have to have a conversation around that. I think that might be one of the next conversations we'll have,
Yeah, absolutely. We could do
the
that.
benefits.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
us neurodivergent folks which
Or
I honestly think a lot of entrepreneurs are.
I've gone down since my
Yeah.
car drive down here with you, I watched a program on Hulu about, sensory deception, whatever it's called, stuff, right? And I'm really starting to believe that there are so many more people that didn't realize that they are, and this is bringing it forward because it's simplifying the things it's helping us to think differently.
Yeah, very cool,
Oh,
Lauren.
that's
We'll have
way
to make
cool.
sure we know about that.
Yeah, maybe come on and talk about it a little bit. But yeah, that's way cool. I think
Yeah,
that's a really good avenue right there, Lauren. That's a great business, great niche.
yeah. And because it's so true, as more and more, um, especially women, are realizing they're neurodivergent, and a lot of entrepreneurs are. I think because the corporate world or the world that we're expected to live in doesn't really fit. Um, yes, so
Mm,
I'm seeing it for sure. So,
share her
um,
comment.
yep, and excellent, lovely, yeah.
Lovely to
Well,
connect
we
with
will
you. Thank
definitely do
you.
the same, Lauren. So thank you for that.
Yes. Well,
Um,
awesome.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you everyone for
everyone.
being here. If there is further questions, further thoughts on what we've said, just put them in the comments and we'll gladly answer. And yeah, we'll be back again. We don't have a set schedule, so we'll be back again. But Lauren, we may need to connect and see what we can do because, yeah, that. All right.
All right. Thanks,
Have a wonderful
everyone.
rest of your day, everyone.